Figurine. Written by V the Trash King. Read by Arashi. Growing up as a mercenary, traveling, fighting, bleeding, Byleth didn't care much about her appearance. But the seeds of scattered thoughts fixed itself into her mind, staying stubbornly in the back of her head. They were often stray thoughts, like getting a small bruise or cut, or watching the surface-level wounds slowly melt away. Little thoughts of wanting to be more like Gerald, flickers of daydreams about being a man. How different and intriguing it would be. But Byleth shelved them. Survival and earning coin, her sole thoughts. Byleth didn't have the forethought to realize her thoughts were never skin-deep, leaving her scarred and lost upon stepping foot in Garreg Mach monastery. The academy was noisy, rattling with students clamoring for class, easily speaking to each other. By pure chance, and probably on poor judgment, Byleth was made a professor, and she was given a choice. Strange, but she blankly followed along with Lady Rhea's request, picking the blue lions. Upon meeting them, Byleth connected far more with the boys, even with her dead-eyed stare and lack of emotions holding her back. She wasn't sure exactly what was happening, or why, but those thoughts haunting the back of her mind rose whenever she spoke to the male blue lions. There was this envy, a desire, to pin up her choppy, long hair into a top-knot bun, to wishing it was shorter. Byleth wanted, for some reason, to dress in the same way Sylvain did, wearing sleek black slacks, an unbuttoned jacket, and a white shirt instead of the usual clothes she wore. They were too feminine now, the word clinging to her head like rotten food. Byleth hadn't minded her stockings, even if they clung to her skin and felt like ants crawling along her legs sometimes, even if she garnered all sorts of eyes, scornful and lustful, which she now understood. She had picked them out for her birthday. Gerald urged her to treat herself and not buy a blade again. Byleth barely even thought on it, purchasing them and putting them on without complaint, but Byleth hated them now. She wanted to yank them off, not burn or rip them, because Gerald looked so happy that evening. The thought of wearing them for another day felt terrible to Byleth. The next morning, Byleth carefully tucked away her stockings into her drawer, not without just barely smiling, and trailing a finger along the light brown silk. She traded them for crumpled black slacks, her lips burning into a too wide and weirdly giddy smile. Byleth didn't understand it, but she went with it anyway. Byleth's decision left her questioning, however. She was aware she was a woman, that much was obvious, but the moment she wore those pants to her lecture, her thoughts roared into action. She wanted to get rid of the heels and wear something close to Ash's boots. She wanted to wear gauntlets like Dimitri's, to hide her deceptively delicate-looking hands. It worried her, every time she thought of these things. Her heart always seemed to feel crushed. She would start to sweat, as if she was nervous, and she could not understand why. Oddly, out of everything to make Byleth spiral and aggressively pace around her room, it was the simple act of doing her hair. She brushed it like normal, not at all being careful, like normal, using the comb to fight her hair rather than glide the teeth right through. Knots snagged her comb, wooden teeth sunk lower into the lower back of her blue hair. She thankfully remembered what Mercedes told her, taking her time to undo the knots and properly comb them out. A hairband had caught her eye, an urge tucking away in the pit of her heart roaring to life. Byleth snatched it from her dresser. She watched herself bunch up her hair in the mirror, pulling it up and securing dark blue locks around the headband. The moment she went past putting her hair into a ponytail and settling it into a topknot, she felt elated and panicked at once. The line was blurring. The line Byleth sparsely thought about, wanting to be a man and wanting to be a woman. She was herself, of course. She was the Ashen Demon, Gerald's child, a professor at Garreg Mach monastery. She was all right with being a woman. It didn't matter much to her, given her previous and current profession. But she yearned, leaving herself to distantly wonder what it was like being a man. Did that make her strange, even though she was already? Was she overthinking? Was there a deeper meaning behind this? Or was her head seeing ghosts and concepts where there were none? Her only hair was giving her emotions she had never felt before, other than stress, which she lately identified with every time the Blue Lions got ahead of themselves during battle. She couldn't speak to her students about it, not that she couldn't confide in them, but they were her students. They should come to her for help, not the other way around. Her father was a road she could walk down, but he was as nonchalant as her, and wouldn't care either way. She was his daughter. She was important to him, but Byleth wondered if Gerald would understand, if he would accept what she was trying to work through. Sedith could be a person to talk to, the right person, even if he was rightfully a little harsh. But the man was swamped in work. Byleth could figure this out on her own. Byleth did not figure this out on her own. Her students recognized something was wrong, almost scarily fast. Dimitri worried because, "You look so sullen, Professor. Is something the matter?" Sylvain halted his weird way of speaking, flirting, concern eating away his smile. Felix requested, instead of demanding, a sparring match, briefly looking her in the eye. Dudu pinned Byleth with a stare, his blank face eroding into something serious. Ash fretted. Mercedes offered to bake, and Annette kept shooting glances at Byleth, vibrating in her seat. Byleth eventually went to Sedith. Byleth never thought to use this word before, but she believed it was completely unfair Sedith could grow a beard. But the man was incredibly patient with her, and really helpful after his guarded eyes flooded with a calm warmth. For the first time in her life, Byleth spoke without looking at the other person's face, her eyes pinned to Sedith's feet, and the polished wooden floor clouding his. Her voice stuttered to talk, as if words cluttered in her throat and choppily broke through her lips. Byleth talked, kicking open the locked chest she abandoned 6 feet under in her mind. She wanted to know what it was like being a boy as a child. She would dream about fighting battles as a man, shorter hair, thinner eyes, and looking far more dangerous. She once, and only once, thought about somehow squeezing her chest down, flattening her breasts. She spoke about her own doubts, if what she was feeling was just her imagining things. As she grew used to the monastery, flourishing beside those golden halls and colored glass windows, Byleth felt more like herself. She could express herself, as a woman, and as whatever this amalgamation she was steadily becoming. Sedith spared any judgment, only smiling and nodding when Byleth looked his way. He said her problem wasn't unheard of, that he expected such feelings to arise in her based on what he observed, that she could well be both female and male, or neither. For a moment, Sedith smiled wide, encouraging her. His voice carried lightly in the air. "If it eases your mind, we can address you however you please." It made her head spin a little, but she felt so relieved. Her mind, while playing tricks on her, was set in the right direction. A word buzzed in her head, her lips settling around it and leaving her throat with oddly shaky confidence. "They," Byleth said, their heart easing in their chest. "Thank you, Sedith."